Have you ever felt like your life didn't just go wrong, but completely collapsed? Like the ground beneath your feet vanished overnight? Like everything you trusted, your future, your identity, your sense of worth, was suddenly ripped away. One moment, you know exactly who you are. The next moment, that person no longer exists. Now imagine this happens when you are 17 years old. You are a trained warrior, a respected member of a powerful clan. Your entire existence is built around honor, loyalty, and battle. And then, on a cold morning in October of the year 1600, everything ends. The place is Sekigahara, the site of the most decisive battle in Japanese history. Two massive armies face each other, 80,000 men on each side. Steel clashes with steel. The ground turns into mud and blood. In just 6 hours, the future of Japan is decided, and it is decided brutally. One army is completely annihilated. Tens of thousands of bodies are left behind. Severed heads litter the battlefield as trophies of victory. The losing side is erased from history. And among the survivors, there is a boy. His name is Miyamoto Musashi. He does not win. He does not die with honor. He survives. And in the samurai world, survival without victory is not success. It is shame. Musashi escapes the battlefield like a criminal, hiding in forests and villages, knowing that if he is caught, he will be executed. His clan is destroyed. His social status is gone. His identity as a warrior has turned to dust. Everything he believed his life would be is over. At 17 years old, Musashi has lost everything. Now ask yourself honestly, what would you do in that situation? Most people faced with that level of collapse choose one of two paths. Some choose self-destruction. They end their lives to escape shame. Others choose slow decay. They numb themselves with alcohol, distractions, regret, and self-pity, slowly disappearing without ever truly living again. That was the fate of countless defeated samurai. But Musashi did something radically different. Something that would not only save his life, but eventually transform him into the most legendary swordsman Japan has ever known. And it started with a rule that goes against everything we are taught about pain. Musashi did not ask, "Why did this happen to me?" He did not curse fate. He did not waste his energy wishing the past could be undone. He looked at the ruins of his life and asked a single, brutal question. This is reality now. What do I do next? That question changed everything. Because resistance is exhausting. When something terrible happens, the human mind instinctively fights reality. Denial comes first, then anger, then bargaining. This can't be happening. This is unfair. If I just do this, maybe things will go back to how they were. But reality does not negotiate. Musashi understood something most people never realize. You don't lose strength because life is hard. You lose strength because you keep fighting what already happened. Acceptance is not weakness. It is strategy. Imagine your house is on fire. You can scream that it shouldn't be burning, or you can run for the exit. Only one of those choices saves your life. By accepting the collapse of his old identity, Musashi freed all the energy he would have wasted on regret and redirected it into survival. Modern psychology confirms this. Studies on trauma survivors show that the people who recover fastest are not the ones who suffer less. They are the ones who accept their new reality the quickest, because acceptance unlocks the only question that matters. Given what is my next move? For Musashi, That question led to a terrifying realization. He was now a Ronin, a masterless samurai. In feudal Japan, Ronin were treated like ghosts. They had no place in society, no protection, no future. Most of them became drunks, gamblers, mercenaries with no honor. And this brings us to the second great temptation Musashi faced, the temptation that destroys most broken people, the desperate need for immediate relief. When your life falls apart, pain becomes constant. And when pain becomes constant, anything that promises escape feels irresistible. Food, alcohol, sex, entertainment, distraction, anything to forget, even for a few hours. Musashi saw this trap clearly, and he rejected it completely. Instead of numbing himself, Musashi chose suffering, but on his own terms. He slept outdoors. He ate only what was necessary to survive. He trained relentlessly. He meditated. He studied philosophy and strategy. While other Ronin escaped pain, Musashi confronted it. Modern neuroscience explains why this mattered. Short-term pleasure does not reduce long-term suffering. It intensifies it. When the brain senses avoidance, stress hormones increase. Anxiety grows. The pain returns, stronger. Discipline, on the other hand, creates control. Musashi understood something most people don't. You will suffer no matter what. The only choice is which kind of suffering you choose. One kind weakens you, the other builds you. Every time he said no to comfort, he said yes to becoming stronger. He wasn't trying to feel better. He was trying to become better. And slowly, day by day, that choice began to reshape him. But discipline alone was not enough, because even the strongest body can be destroyed by an uncontrolled mind. And that lesson would be revealed years later, on a quiet beach, during the most famous duel in Japanese history. Years pass. Musashi is no longer the frightened teenager running through forests to survive. He is still a wanderer, still a Ronin. But something inside him has changed. While others chase recognition, Musashi chases mastery. He trains relentlessly, not just his body, but his mind. And in the year 1612, his path leads him to a small island off the coast of Japan, Ganryu Island. On that island, Musashi will face the most dangerous opponent of his life. Across the shore stands Sasaki Kojiro, a man feared throughout the land, a master of the longsword, fast, precise. Obsessed with victory, the crowd gathers, bets are placed. Everyone knows what this duel means. One man will walk away, the other will not. Kojiro arrives early. He warms up, he sharpens his blade, he focuses his mind. Musashi does not arrive. Minutes pass, then an hour. The crowd begins to murmur. Kojiro grows restless. 2 hours pass. By the third hour, Kojiro is furious. He feels disrespected, mocked, humiliated. What Kojiro does not know is that Musashi is not running late. He is doing something deliberate. He is carving a wooden sword from an oar. When Musashi finally appears, calm and silent, Kojiro explodes with rage. He shouts insults. He screams threats. Musashi says nothing. The duel begins. It lasts less than a minute. Despite Kojiro's superior technique, he loses. His skull is crushed by Musashi's wooden blade. And in that moment, a truth becomes undeniable. Kojiro fought with emotion. Musashi fought with clarity. Modern culture tells us to trust our feelings, to follow our emotions, to act authentically. Musashi learned the opposite, the hard way. Strong emotions narrow perception. They distort judgment. They make you predictable. Anger makes you reckless. Fear makes you hesitate. Desire makes you blind. Musashi understood that emotions exist to signal danger, not to make decisions. He developed what he called the imperturbable mind, not the absence of emotion, but control over it. Think of your mind like an aircraft. Your emotions are passengers. They can scream, they can panic, but only one person should touch the controls. If you let emotions pilot your life, the crash is inevitable. Musashi trained himself to pause before acting. Whenever a strong emotion arose, he delayed his response. He breathed. He waited. This simple pause gave reason time to return. Modern neuroscience confirms this. In emotionally charged moments, the rational part of the brain shuts down. A short delay allows it to re-engage. Most life-destroying decisions are made in seconds of emotional intensity. Musashi survived because he refused to act in those seconds. And yet, even with discipline and emotional control, Musashi faced another enemy, one far more subtle: his own mind. Years of wandering brought long days of isolation. And isolation breeds rumination. Musashi found himself replaying the past again and again, the battle he lost, the choices he made, the life he could have had. The more he thought about himself, the deeper he sank. Then he realized something crucial. Obsession with the self is a prison, so he broke out. Musashi forced his mind outward. He studied calligraphy, painting, poetry, architecture, strategy beyond combat. He observed nature. He learned from farmers, monks, and craftsmen. By expanding his attention beyond his pain, his suffering lost its grip. Science explains why this works. When the mind focuses exclusively on personal problems, the brain reinforces suffering pathways. New interests create new neural connections and interrupt the cycle. Musashi didn't escape pain. He outgrew it. While other warriors trained only to fight, Musashi trained to understand the world. This made him unpredictable, creative, impossible to read. And this inner expansion became his greatest weapon. But even after mastering discipline, emotions, and perspective, Musashi faced one final trap, a silent poison that nearly destroyed everything he had built. By the mid-1600s, Miyamoto Musashi had become something unheard of. He had fought in more than 60 duels. He had never been defeated. His name alone was enough to make challengers hesitate. And yet, in a private letter to one of his students, Musashi wrote something deeply unsettling. The most dangerous enemy I ever faced did not carry a sword. It wasn't an opponent. It wasn't a battlefield. It wasn't even fear. It was comparison. Even after years of discipline and mastery, Musashi struggled when he saw other warriors living stable lives. Men who still had clans, status, comfort, while he wandered alone. The thought crept in quietly. Why them? Why not me? Why did I lose everything while others kept it all? That question is poison, because comparison creates scarcity, and scarcity creates desperation. Musashi realized that if he allowed envy to grow, it would undo everything he had built. So he trained his mind again, this time in a different way. Not with blind optimism, not with fake positivity, but with strategic gratitude. He forced his attention toward what remained. He had his life, his health, his freedom, his experience, his ability to choose who he would become. Every night, he wrote down 3 specific things he was grateful for, not vague ideas, concrete facts. Today, my body endured hours of training. Today, I learned something new. Today, I am still standing. This practice rewired his perception. Modern neuroscience explains why. Gratitude reduces fear response and strengthens rational thinking. It increases motivation. It improves decision-making. A grateful mind sees options. An envious mind sees walls. Musashi didn't use gratitude to feel comfortable. He used it to stay dangerous. Warriors who focus on what they might lose fight with fear. Warriors who focus on what they already have fight with calm certainty. Musashi entered every duel grounded, not desperate. But this wasn't the end of his transformation. There was one final realization that separated him from everyone else. Most people who survive a crisis spend their lives trying to recover what they lost. The old job, the old identity, the old version of themselves. Musashi understood that was impossible. The boy he had been at 17 was gone, and trying to resurrect him would only trap him in the past. So instead of asking, "How do I get my old life back?" he asked something far more powerful. "Who can I become with what I now know?" That question changed everything. Musashi didn't rebuild the same life. He built a completely new one. Not just a warrior, but a philosopher. Not just a fighter, but a thinker. He combined physical mastery with mental clarity and spiritual depth. Years later, he wrote the Book of Five Rings, a work still studied by soldiers, athletes, and leaders centuries later. And here's the final irony. If Musashi had never lost everything at Sekigahara, he likely would have lived and died as an ordinary samurai, skilled, respected, forgotten. It was the total destruction of his life that created the conditions for his legend. And this is where his story meets yours. Maybe you're grieving who you used to be. Maybe you're desperate to return to a life that no longer exists. But what if that life was a limitation? What if the collapse you're experiencing is not punishment, but preparation? Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens under pressure. Strength is forged where resistance is highest. Musashi didn't escape his suffering. He used it, and the same rules apply to you. Accept reality. Reject shortcuts. Control emotions. Expand perspective. Practice strategic gratitude. Stop trying to fix a broken life. Start building a new one. Because the version of you that existed before the collapse is gone. But a stronger version is waiting to be built. The question is simple. Will you have the courage to begin? If this story spoke to you, ask yourself, which of Musashi's rules are you ignoring right now? And more importantly, which one will you apply today? Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. And you didn't come here to be entertained. You came here to change.